The Intellectual Lineage of Viscoplastopology Theory and Neuropsychology Part 2, number 1672, the 5th of June 2026, Gerald C. Shu, EclaireMD Foundation, category, Neuroscience. From geometry to topology, this neurological recovery appeared to coincide with an intellectual shift in my research. Initially, my work focused on state at certain time instant, whole trajectories, curves, and directional changes. Geometry asks questions such as, where is the system moving? How does the curve bend? Where does the trajectory change direction? Topology asks a different set of questions. What is connected to what? How are different components related? What pathways exist between system states? How does connectivity influence system behavior? Around October 2025, I noticed that my attention was increasingly shifting from states and shapes toward geometric movement and relationships. I became interested in connectivity among biomarkers, interactions among physiological variables, relationships among multiple systems, pathways linking one physiological state to another. This represented a transition from a predominantly physics viewpoint toward a topological viewpoint. The emergence of topology did not replace physics and engineering. Instead, topology expanded the framework by emphasizing connectivity in addition to trajectory. My current understanding is that viscoplasticity primarily studies the internal state of a system at a given point in time, including its energy, stress, deformation, adaptation, and response characteristics. Topology, on the other hand, focuses more on the evolution of the system, examining how the geometric shape of a dataset changes over time, how trajectories move, and how different data elements remain connected as the system evolves. In this sense, viscoplasticity is concerned more with the internal behavior of a system, while topology is concerned more with its external structure, connectivity, and transformation. One studies the forces and mechanisms that drive change, while the other studies the resulting pathways, relationships, geometric evolution, and structural organization that emerge over time. When combined, the two disciplines provide a more complete picture of data science. Viscoplasticity helps explain why a system changes, whereas topology helps describe how that change unfolds through time and space. Together, they offer a unified framework for studying both the internal dynamics and the external evolution of complex systems. This eventually led to the development of VPT, a combined viscoplastic and topological framework. A possible biological origin of VPT, one particularly intriguing possibility emerged during this process. The intellectual shift toward topology may itself have originated from a biological topological event occurring inside my own brain. Neuroplasticity was rebuilding neural pathways and restoring connectivity among previously disconnected neurons in different regions of brain. At the same time, I began recognizing the importance of connectivity within biomedical systems. In other words, the same concept may have appeared simultaneously into different domains. 1. Biologically, within the recovering neural network of the brain. 2. Intellectually, within the interconnected network of physiological variables, within the VPT framework. Topology therefore may not simply represent a mathematical tool imported into medicine. Instead, it may have emerged naturally through the parallel observation of biological recovery and biomedical data analysis. As neuroplasticity gradually rebuilt connections within the recovering brain, similar patterns of connectivity, pathways, and evolving relationships became increasingly visible within the physiological data itself. Whether this interpretation is ultimately correct remains a question for future scientific investigation. Nevertheless, it provides a plausible explanation for why topological thinking became central to my work only after the stroke, standing between two scientific worlds. Professor Norman Jones represents one side of this intellectual lineage. His work embodies engineering, applied mathematics, structural mechanics, energy methods, and physical system analysis at the highest level. However, neuroplasticity and modern neuroscience were never central components of physics and engineering. Academic focus. The Stanford neuroscience community represents the other side. Their expertise includes neuroplasticity, neural networks, cognitive recovery, brain adaptation, neuropsychology. They are generally not focused on viscoplastic energy methods, topology, or engineering system analysis. My experience unexpectedly placed me between these two worlds. One side contributed mathematics, engineering, energy concepts, and topology. The other side contributed neuroplasticity, neural recovery, and biological adaptation. Following the stroke, these previously two separate domains began to merge into a unified framework. VPT emerged at that intersection. This case may interest neuroscience researchers. Most stroke research focuses on loss. Neuroscience researchers commonly study motor impairment of speech, deficits, cognitive decline, disability, functional limitations. My experience raises a different question. Can neuroplastic recovery occasionally lead not only to restoration of function, but also to new forms of cognitive integration? Several characteristics of my recovery may be scientifically unusual. Preservation of high-level analytical reasoning, continued systems-level thinking, sustained mathematical abstraction, strong autobiographical memories, accelerated cross-disciplinary synthesis, intensified pattern recognition, continued development of new theoretical frameworks. Important is the existence of a highly detailed longitudinal record with more than 4 million data points from my own body and lifestyle. For many years, I have continuously collected biomedical data while simultaneously documenting my thoughts, observations, hypotheses, and interpretations. This creates a rare combination, a deeply longitudinal biomedical record containing both physiological biomarkers and lifestyle details, combined with a deeply longitudinal cognitive record documented through journal-style research. Notes from the same individual. From a neuroscience perspective, these conversations, observations, reflections, and evolving ideas may be as informative as conventional cognitive test scores. Together, they provide a unique opportunity to observe not only physiological change, but also the evolution of thought, memory, reasoning, and intellectual connectivity over time. Researchers may therefore be interested not only in what changed after the stroke, but also in how new patterns of integration emerged during recovery. Conclusion: this paper is not primarily about stroke recovery data. It is about the origin of ideas. My earlier work had already established the viscoplastic foundations through energy analysis, trajectory evolution, and system dynamics. However, topology remained largely dormant despite decades of mathematical training. Following my stroke, neuroplastic recovery appeared to restore access to previously inactive concepts while simultaneously increasing my focus on connectivity, relationships, and pathways within biomedical systems. As a result, geometry and mechanics gradually expanded into topology, trajectory expanded into connectivity, and viscoplastic medicine theory (VMT) expanded into viscoplastic and topological theory (VPT). Whether this interpretation ultimately proves scientifically correct remains to be determined. However, from my personal perspective, the emergence of VPT appears closely linked to the neuroplastic recovery process that followed my stroke. The recovery of neural connectivity may have enabled the recovery of intellectual connectivity. So, VPT may represent more than a new analytical framework. It may also represent a direct example of how biological adaptation and intellectual discovery can evolve together within the same human system. Epilogue for readers: the purpose of my research has never been solely to publish papers or develop theories. It has always been to better understand health, disease, recovery, and life itself. If any insight from this work helps even one person avoid suffering, improve recovery, or better understand their own health journey, then the effort has been worthwhile. All of my research ultimately comes from the same place: a desire to protect health, preserve life, and share what I have learned through my own experiences. This content is provided for educational reference only and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights for this article and its related materials belong to the author, Gerald C. Shu.